by the time I was 14 and life, family going to church weekly and so on, I knew I would never meet Christ in this church, but I knew that there was an interconnectedness of all things and all people, and there was a spirit of unity of the whole world. And in my mind, I held that sort of almost picture of a Christ being, or a being of the unity of all mankind alive and of the past.
That was Rachel Pomeroy, and you're listening to The Regenerative Journey. From wherever we are, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia, recognising their continuing connection to this land, its waterways, the stars in the skies since time immemorial. We pay our respects to the elders, knowledge holders, and to all the generations of First Nations peoples who have nurtured their unceded sovereign lands for over 80,000 years and continue to do so today.
G'day, I'm your host Charlie Arnott, an 8th generational Australian regenerative farmer. And in this podcast series, I'll be diving deep and exploring my guests' unique perspectives on the world so you can apply their experience and knowledge to cultivate your own transition to a more regenerative way of life.
Welcome to The Regenerative Journey with your host Charlie Arnott.
G'day, welcome back to The Regenerative Journey. Again, you'll find me sitting in my office here at Hanamino with the birds tweeting, guinea fowl squawking and imminent rain. When you hear this, I trust we've had some rain. In Shireen, we have been really lucky down here at Burrawa. I have to say, winter, spring so far, it's green, grass is kind of slowed up. Not growing as fast as it was. A drink of water would just explode. It's still warm, or very warm. The soil's warmed up. It's not too hot. I think the next week's going to be mildish, which is lovely, beautiful growing weather, and we could really do with a drink to grow some food to get through spring, and hopefully enough to sort of get us equipped for summer. Having said all that, there are a lot of people further to the north of here who I know, and north and west, Queensland, northern New South Wales, central New South Wales, and don't have to go very far from here to sort of see that things are bloody tough. And, the spring that we're all hoping for, I guess it was going to be a fourth spring in a row, which is a bit unheard of. So in some ways we shouldn't be too surprised that there are some real challenges taking place in rural eastern part of Australia. I'm not entirely sure how things are going across in WA. I think they're having not a bad season. Certainly southern New South Wales and Victoria are doing okay. I think Tassie is too. But anyway, that's a bit of a around the grounds of season. But really, praying for rain across the eastern seaboard would be awesome, and inland as far as it will go. That would be delicious if we could all snag a bit of that, because there's bugger all else going on in the ag world that's shining a bright light on things. Commodity prices are pretty bloody ordinary. Sheep keep slipping. Cattle, I think wool's taken a bit of a dive as well. Really interesting. I think it's always fascinating as to why. There's season, there's weather, there's conditions, there's sentiment, there's El Nino. It's really interesting how, it just seems to me that things not that they don't stack. I mean, lots of things aren't stacking up anymore, but it's another conversation. But in terms of, I often get asked what's influencing the cattle and the sheep market at the moment. And, there's the normal things, season mainly, supply demand, but there's also interest rates, there's inflation, there's overseas, influence and markets that are opening up or closing down, and it just seems to be so many variables in the market nowadays. And that has always been variation, there's always been a number of influences, but it just seems to be a bit more mixed up. Maybe there's a bit more political stuff going on as well. anyway, it's harder to pick than a broken nose, to be honest, nowadays. But anyway, let's hope we get the rain. Rain doesn't solve everything, but it certainly will give people feed and maybe able to hang on to stock longer and keep them in condition and maintain numbers, or not have to drop them quite as much as they might have had to if it doesn't rain. Especially coming to summer too, where it's going to get drier. Generally, it does in a fair bit of Australia. Maybe up the north is when they get a bit of summer rain. But anyway, moving on from that, I do want to make a note of a bunch of buddies of mine have doing some fantastic stuff. With no doubt, we're all well aware of the mRNA jabs that went around the world a couple of years ago. I don't want to dwell on that. If I don't want to talk too much about it, otherwise it might get taken off air. However, I think everyone should be pretty clear in my view on all that bollocks. Now, if you're a first-time listener, then you'll probably hear about it or you'll get a pretty firm impression. Nonetheless, it's interesting that there has been a lot of development, more so public development, and there's been a lot of private and under-the-radar development, I think, in the last, after over 10 years, especially in the cattle industry in the States, on developing mRNA vaccines for animals. In this case, beef is in the headlines, and given what everyone experienced and some people know about, not everyone does, but certainly the experiences of many and the results, what we're hearing, what we're seeing of those particular types of jabs on people, and now they want to roll it out to animals, is what I think is absolutely insane. Anyway, it's interesting that there's a lot more people interested. It's something that I think we should all be thinking about, asking better questions. And some buddies of mine have put together a website. I'd love you to go and check it out. I'm not sure by the time this goes to air, hopefully it's been it's up and away. Stakes are high. It's called. Google that. Stakes are high. Actually, I'll find stakesarehigh.org, and it is advocating for people asking better questions, producers asking better questions, consumers asking better questions, and really digging deep on what is the impact of this type of jab use in cattle. In this case, I'm sure there'll be other species that they'll probably want to jab into things for what they would say is the control mitigation against, at this point, some exotic diseases like foot and mouth and lumpy skin disease, which, from what I understand, was a bit of a scare last year, but really aren't a threat, not sort of an imminent threat. Lots of checks and balances already in place to keep it off our shores. However, some people think it's a good idea to go and explore the option of creating these sort of jabs for cattle. So check it out, stakesarehigh.org. Advocating for people essentially to ask better questions and to give farmers a voice when it concerns their livelihoods, and livestock and consumers a choice when it comes to the food they eat. So that's what the guys are doing. They're fantastic. There's some good buddies of mine involved, and I want you to go and check it out and see what you think. And there's some things you can sign up for in terms of keeping up to date with what they're doing. Developments in that industry or in that world of R&D on these sort of jabs, and I think it's a really good idea that we do simply ask better questions of where our food's from, what's going into that food. I mean, it's nothing new that I've banged on about in terms of asking better questions and really getting to the source of your food, but this is just another good reason to work out exactly, because we don't know. This is the other interesting. They experimented on humans there a couple of years ago and still probably are. Now it looks like they want to experiment on cattle, and in this case, and I don't know if that's going to be good for us to be eating that sort of meat that's had those injections. So anyway, stirring it up. Second last episode of the podcast, isn't it? So check it out. There's some fantastic links in there and really good information. Some fantastic partners have come on board. Chief, Provenir, Our Cow, Australian Organic Meat Co., Land to Market, were a lovely mob that I've had a fair bit to do with, and some other fantastic Cherrywood Road Organic Meats, Clayton's Organic Beef, Laffey Family Farms, Cherry Tree Organics, Miller Organic Beef. These people are asking questions and they are concerned, understandably, about what the implications are. That's a big bang on from me. Now to Rachel Pomeroy, who's a lovely, lovely lady. I met her in New Zealand when I went to speak at the Biodynamics New Zealand conference over there in in the North Island back in May. Now, she is the partner of Peter Proctor. Peter Proctor, he passed away a couple of years ago now, and what a lovely guy. If you want to know how lovely a guy he was, go and Google this amazing documentary called One Man, One Cow, One Planet that he and Rachel starred in. He's a biodynamic practitioner, one of the best in the business, and he has an amazing story of how he went to India and basically taught a lot of Indian farmers how to do it biodynamically, and it's so much more that doco than just that. He's a lovely, lovely bloke. I never got to meet Peter, unfortunately, but Rachel was just beautiful to speak with her in front of everyone. We recorded it live at the conference, and just such a font of information. And, you know, I had many people suggest that I sit and interview Rachel, and just, wonderful, wonderful interview. One of the shorter ones I've done, given the sort of time constraints of the conference, but one I'm sure you'll enjoy as much as I did recording it. I hope you enjoy listening. Rachel Pomeroy here on The Regenerative Journey. Rachel Pomeroy, welcome to The Regenerative Journey, and welcome to the Mansfield Park Raceway Convention Function Centre.
Yeah.
Yes? And the Biodynamics New Zealand annual conference. Welcome.
Thank you, yeah. I'm pleased I'm here today.
I'm pleased you're here too, because I had you earmarked for an interview, and I was just trying to work out how I could actually pin you down, and then I had a brainwave yesterday in the shower, and I thought, how can I fill in an hour and a half of time, is basically what I was thinking, because I didn't have enough content. I was going, I'm going to be struggling. And I went, hang on, let's interview someone, and you were the obvious choice, so thank you for agreeing. You've had a number of hours to pull out, and I'm glad you haven't, so the good news here, you're still here. Rachel, just to let everyone, I guess, who's listening and hasn't been present to the conference for the last little while, you and Peter Proctor, were an inspiration to me many years ago when I saw the movie, the film, the doco, One Man, One Cow, One Planet. It was, I reckon, 15 years ago, 12 years ago, I saw it, and it was amazing. And now I'm actually sitting next to you. Mm-hmm. Bit of a fanboy. Mm-hmm. So it's lovely to be here. I'm going to start with a simple one. How did you get into biodynamics? Because you're a bit of a biodynamics legend.
Am I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what everyone here told me.
I guess it started, you mentioned the 7-year-old, and that sparked a thought when I was 7 was the first time I consciously remember thinking, there's this whole universe, this whole world. I don't know anything about everything about it, but I know it's knowable. So I always knew there was kind of the unseen world that I didn't yet know about, but exists and is knowable. So the wisdom of the world, basically. Why is there God? Is there a God? Whatever. By the time I was 14, and life, family going to church weekly and so on, I knew I would never meet Christ in this church, but I knew that there was an interconnectedness of all things and all people, and there was a spirit of unity of the whole world. And in my mind, I held that sort of almost picture of a Christ being, or a being of the unity of all mankind, alive and of the past, or deceased. And so another 14 years when I was sort of 28, again, various life paths that led me on to anthroposophy, the work of Rudolf Steiner. And that moment, indeed, in Palmerston North was a very central part of it. I was living in Palmerston North at the time, and the daughter of one of the main people, Mary Patterson, Mary's daughter, is here today. Claire, yes.
Okay.
And, the first night at the first reading group night. And it was like, I'm not the only person in the world who's ever had these thoughts about the world and a bigger picture of what life is all about. And so that was a sort of, I found my home, as it were. And from there, before getting to that point, I had been a student at Massey University, 5 years of studying the life sciences, plant biology in particular. A professor, one lesson I do remember was this professor talking about the history of metamorphosis of plants, and this man Goethe, who'd given and he explained that picture totally clearly on the blackboard. And, we all people who already had spent 5 years learning about nodes and how broad beans grow and apexes and leaves and all buds and all that. So it was just that, clear picture. And so a connection with plants. And then as I got into anthroposophy and this more the, description of the world picture, just the relationship of plants, stars, this interconnectedness that you're all about is what I was really keen to know more about. And the more I heard about biodynamics, and by then having gone to Hastings with 3 young children who then all gone through the Steiner School in Hastings in the intervening years. And there was a biodynamic course running in Havelock North at Taroona College, and I knew there was someone who knew about the stars. Hans Mulder would teach us about stars. I was 40 before I even recognised the Southern Cross. I didn't know I looked at star maps, no luck working out stars. So, and I'd heard of biodynamic preparations that sounded, but, didn't know much about. So it'd be good to know about that. That was enough to make me, and I'd been a home gardener trying to grow, and, grown a few vegetables as you do in the garden, and had parents in gardening at home in my childhood, and relations who were farmers and such like. I remember being out there with the cousins when they're, drenching the sheep, and breeze happens, and they're putting all these ewes through this mobile drenching spray machine. And of course, when the wind blows this way, we're all getting this stuff blowing over us, and, go and get out of the mist of the spray and stuff. So, New Zealand farming sort of situation, docking lambs and so on. Yeah.
And what did people think? Did you tell people you were trying this stuff, this weird cow horn manure sort of stuff?
Well, yeah, I did. Sort of.
What did they think?
Well, I guess my own parental family, I didn't meet with any understanding, or, we've all stayed good friends, but we don't have that deep meeting of being kind of on the same level. Got a lovely sister who's they're all gardening away, a life of their own gardening business and so on, got their spray certificates and all that, but they grow lovely gardens, I must say, very nice. So we all do our different things. Anyway, getting into the biodynamics and star watching, well, You know, we just went out, I think, 2 nights pointing out a few constellations with Hans Mulder, and yeah, but he had these wonderful maps, and from that, it was just a wish in the world to go out and eat there. All you need is your eyes and the stars and no clouds in between, and you can just be at it. It's
Is it very often that New Zealand doesn't have clouds? I've been here for 4 days and I haven't seen blue sky.
Yeah.
Did it happen?
Well, up till this season, it was great star watching, but this year we're losing track a little bit of what's up there.
So I understand you're a bit of a guru on the star law stuff. What was it that really piqued your interest? Like that, what was the relevance of constellations and stars and stuff up there that you can only see a couple of hours a day? So what was the relevance of that to your farming or your life?
Yeah, well, I suppose I kind of knew that it was part of the whole, you know, the Earth isn't an island. It's connected. It's part of a solar system within a galaxy or whatever else, whatever is out there, and that we're all actually connected, and so, you know, even the rhythms of the day and the night, for instance, it's all about relationship. We're in relationship, and that's the whole thing with the planting calendar and people who say, you know, how can your garden growing cabbages have anything to do with the moon, or let alone any of the other planets? So it's like, it's got a lot to do with the Earth, though, hasn't it? And we get these cosmic rhythms because the Earth spins on its axis in 24 hours. Other planets do it in much different times. And because it's on this angle of 23.5 degrees to the plane of the solar system, and so we get seasons, and there's, hot and cold and rising and falling, and all these things that are, they're as much to do with the Earth and the qualities of the Earth as they are to do with those jolly things out there. It's a relationship. All these things of connectedness are relationships. So what lives in relationship? Yeah, so, I mean, I just loved the preparations, and that we're working with plants and looking more and more at qualities of plants, because although I'd, you know, done those years of university and following a lot about structure and classification and various things, just this living with the qualities and you know, even asking those questions like, how did the early herbalists sort of learn or perceive the healing qualities of things, and also, you know, the Rudolf Steiner in his life having those capacities and developing a lot within his life and giving us all, you know, processes by which, because we all have the potential to do these things and to re-find our capacities for connecting with this whole wider world, finding that connectedness between people, which is so important now to getting any sort of that feeling of connectedness, satisfaction. And for many people, that, you know, our classic churches and listening to ministers and whatever doesn't
cut it.
ring true.
No.
And, you know, what Rudolf Steiner presents and how it's connected with the wisdom of much earlier times through the whole, you know, wisdom that came through the whole Indian Vedas and all, right from beginnings way back there. And, you know, wonderful experience in India with connecting with indigenous culture and indigenous values, and how that's, you know, much closer for those people than it is in our Western world. We've had at least these last 400 years of moving very strongly away from any connectedness. And
But at least we've been a bit connected the last couple of days, or today, and tomorrow, more connection tomorrow, haven't we? Because we are at the conference, Biodynamics New Zealand conference. I'm conscious of time. Do we have time for one quick question from the audience? that can be within, what's the time?
Coming up for 5:10.
Okay. Don't know, your call?
Stop at 15:15.
Oh, definitely. We've got one question. You're going to have to, like, 3 minutes. Well, anyone got a question? Last year, like, straight up, sir?
In your experience working on land in preparation, what would be your transformation?
Just to repeat that, what was the most profound experience you've had whilst putting preparations out? Yep, cool.
Yeah, my personal most profound experience has probably been one day where I have 3 cows who now, 18 years old or still with their horns, have a beautiful life grazing the spare land, as it were, at Valada and Havelock North. Have a few calves over the years. One day, just sort of stirring the 500 and the back paddock, just decided to do a paddock by myself and stirred it, and I was sprinkling it out, and these cows kind of come by and it's falling on the cows. And then just thinking, how much there I was by myself, but part of this circle. These same cows are the ones I've collected the cow dung from. I've filled the horns, I've buried them in the ground in that place, I've lifted them, I've stirred it for an hour, and all the cosmic sort of influence coming in, and now spreading it in the field, and them even walking by and getting it sprinkled on them as well. Just how amazing it is to be part of this cycle of connectedness, of consciousness of what you're doing. It's all just simple life processes, but trusting in the wisdom that lives in a process like this, and knowing that all this is working so that this land is alive, receptive, connected to the whole cosmos, the ordering forces of the cosmos, what the order of the cosmos, ordering the order of life on Earth, and that how amazing it is to be part of this, and that actually in a way it's through this, all the cosmic things that have come towards us have formed this life on Earth of which we're part, and now through working consciously with this process we're connecting back to those stars. It's like, hey, we know you're here, come help us some more. We open the pathway, the hotline to heaven.
Well, I'm feeling pretty connected to you right now, Rachel, as are these people. Interconnected. Thank you so much for your time. We are going to pick this up another time when I come back to New Zealand, if they'll let me in. And I really appreciate it. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for everyone's time. You're a legend. So glad we got to meet, but I will track you down another time. And I hope you enjoy the rest of tomorrow's Biodynamics New Zealand activities.
Yes.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, it will be great.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
And next week on The Regenerative Journey, my guest is Baden McDougall. It is the last episode for Season 7 of The Regenerative Journey, sadly. However, we're finishing on a high. Baden is a farmer. Has been farming up in the near Bingra in northern New South Wales for a number of generations, with his family for another generations. He's been farming for his own generation. Lovely fella. He is one of the wonderful members of the Highland Beef farmers that fatten stock for Highland Beef, as I'm sure you're all now well aware of. And Highland Beef are, of course, our Season 7 sponsors. So lovely to be finishing the season with one of their chaps, one of their team members. And I trust you enjoy next week's episode of The Regenerative Journey with Baden McDougall.
This podcast is produced by Rhys Jones at Jaeger Media. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to subscribe, share, rate and review. For more episode information, please head over to www.charliearnott.com.au.